Hello, I'm Mr. Johnson. Kittens like to play with my tongue. I shall demonstrate.
This was the first animation I saw on rathergood.com. It's crass, it's daft, it's faintly nasty. At 10 years old, I fell in love. It was probably linked through MSN and clicked by a mouse that still had a ball. These were the early 2000s, when the internet was becoming essential. Whether through Rather Good, Fat Pie, or Weeble stuff, kids had access to a new vein of comedy. We felt naughty, sort of free and liberated, at the sight of swearing baby seals dancing in the air. What reprobate, which twisted, simple mind could concoct such puerile filth to begin with? You're in the green tea rooms for a pot of fresh ephemera. I'm your host, Lee Tyrrell, with a rather good first episode. I'm joined by Joel Veitch, criminal and part-time crab, to explore the ditches of his ruinous material.
I had shared a flat when I was 18 with a guy called Rob Manuel. And in the kind of late 90s, end of the 90s, he was doing things on the internet and kind of experimenting around making communities and stuff. And so I was in actually a Yahoo group, which probably doesn't mean anything to anyone anymore. But there was a website called Yahoo, which had a search engine and lots of other stuff. And it had email groups as part of its thing. It's since been bought and all of those have been killed, so everything that was on there has gone. But there was a Yahoo group which he set up where a small group of us were swapping stupid stuff. From that grew a creative community which turned into Beta, B3TA, from which quite a lot of us kind of originated back in the early 2000s. And it was largely due to Rob's influence that I set up my own website, which was rathergood.com, and started mucking about on there and putting some of my stuff on there. He very much kind of encouraged me to do my own thing.
In truth, Joel's, of course, a lovely bloke and not a crab. A family man who back then was driven by his youthful whims. Without YouTube or other central hubs to host your content, communities of like minds would clump together. B3TA, or Beta, was one of many, distinctly British and widely influential.
Beta, B3TA, which I refer to a lot, was super important, but it was a website with like a message board. It was essentially just a message board, and people would host their own stuff outside of that and link in. I'm not even sure how many of these kind of concepts mean anything anymore, but the idea of hosting your own content on a server and then pulling it onto another site, which is what we used to do. And then there were other hubs, things like Newgrounds, where people put a load of Flash content. And there were some which everybody on my side of the fence disliked because they were stealing things. But I think for, the people out there using them, that wasn't obvious. Places like eBaum's World, where content was aggregated.
Through the 90s and into the early 2000s, the internet had a Wild West quality it's long lost. Now, it's tumbleweeds, rolling through a wasteland to the same few big saloons, the pillars of social media. Used to be that buffalo would roam the prairies. Enough analogy, but it's true. I used to visit, regularly, a site by Emotion Eric, a fella who'd simply post different pictures of his face. From happiness and anger to I hit the snooze button one too many times, Eric conveyed it all. Today, it'd get lost in the wash of endless content.
He was amazing, wasn't he? Eric portrays an emotion. The joy of it was an early example of audience interaction, wasn't it? Sent him an emotion they wanted him to portray, and he would then take a photo of himself portraying it. The world was simpler in those days, wasn't it? We're very lucky to be there at a moment in time. It happens every now and again, right? There's a moment in time where something becomes possible that wasn't possible before, and like it always reminds me, or I kind of think about the first people who started mucking about with film cameras, or the first people to start mucking about with electric guitars, and they generated this revolution in music. And we were just lucky to be there at a moment when a new thing became possible and we could invent it as we went along, which was fantastic, and just an accident of timing, but was great.
Audience interaction can uniquely flow online, like Emotion Eric's fan requests, through guest books or forums. We take that for granted today, with comment sections, AMAs, and analytics everywhere. But who, in Rather Good's case, made up the audience?
I know, it's David! I win!
Fuck off!
I think there were kind of essentially two groups of people who were watching the stupid stuff we were making. One of them was, as you say, kids who are out there kind of watching stuff on their parents' computers and talking about it at school and college. And the other group was bored office workers. In those days, everything wasn't kind of locked down in the way it is now. And I say that, I don't know how many offices you can get on YouTube and stuff, probably quite a few. But there was a long period where people on office computers could just watch stupid Flash content. And so there were a lot of people wasting their time in offices as well. And I always thought that both groups were equally valid, and it was kind of hilarious, really.
I'd have been about 14 when watching Rather Good, sharing it on MSN Messenger with friends. Otherwise, we'd watch it in our IT classes, teachers be damned. We'd find ways to break through security software. As such, it felt almost punk, naughty, taboo. Parents didn't understand it. This was ours alone. When I hear my dad discuss punk rock or Monty Python, the feeling's the same. And for my generation, the likes of Jackass, Flash animation, and webcomics speak of a youthful freedom universal to adolescence.
When you say punk rock, I mean, obviously, the implication there is that it's the new thing for a generation that the generation before didn't get. But there's also another analogy there, which is that it was a rejection of all the structures that had been put in place by the people who controlled that stuff. So we were reveling in being able to bypass the gatekeepers, because until that point, if you wanted to have your creative work published, you had to publish it through publishers, whether that's like books or comics or art or trying to get into TV or or playwriting or music or any of these things. There were corporate bodies that controlled your access to distributing your work, unless you kind of photocopied comics, but obviously that's a different level of exposure. And so this was the first time we realised that actually, no, you didn't have to have gone to Oxford with the commissioner at BBC. You could just make something.
As is always the way when authorities aren't looking, things get crude, rude, and strange. It even became a philosophy of sorts to Joel and some contemporaries. Shit is good, where purposely bad animation was part of the fun.
We were focused on ideas, you know. That was the thing. It's like, get the ideas out. Don't waste your time making the presentation slick. And you know, like I mean, I've done very heavily produced work now, and I've done very quick work, and I still think that some of the quickest things that I've done still stand up really well compared to things that have taken, you know, months or years to make.
Many of Joel's ideas, and several other creators too, hinged on cats, a trend that lives on today. Even before the first use of the now outdated term, lolcat, the internet was feline, obsessed with the little buggers.
Yeah, the internet was already cat-based. You know, the internet largely consisted of cats and kittens anyway. And it's surprising, there's a lot of dogs. Like dogs, people don't ever talk about how popular dogs are. There's a thing called Google Trends now where you can see what people are searching for. And there's twice the traffic on dogs as there is on cats, and that's not a new thing. It's just for some reason people don't talk about it so much. But yeah, so dogs and cats are what make the internet go round. I was going to say, obviously, it's always cats that get the kind of mimetic value, but there are a couple of dogs who kind of hit into that realm. But yeah, the big ones are the cats still.
In 2003, Joel and Rather Good snagged a series of ads for Crusher, a strange, fruity milkshake mix with cats in a starring role.
I want some Crusher, a little Crusher. Milk keeps me fit and tastes so great. I want some
The truly demented Spong Monkeys, best known for their love of the moon, even fronted Quiznos ads for a while.
In America!
The ones I did over here did a campaign with Singing Penguins for Switch Maestro and those Crusher ones, which were quite popular. That was great. It was, you know, it was a real validation. It was lovely to be able to make some money and kind of feel like I crossed over into what the grown-ups were doing a bit without sacrificing any of the kind of fundamental heart of it, which was great. The American one was kind of different because the Spong Monkeys, who are the We Like the Moon characters, were what we used for the Quiznos ads, and it was a bit more anarchic. Like the Penguins thing I did and the kitten stuff I did here were quite accessible. Although the Crusher ad was a little bit naughty, it was a bit anarchic, but it wasn't kind of upsetting. And the Spong Monkeys are ugly and screechy, and that caused a lot more kind of ruckus in a way that I found absolutely hilarious. You know, like it got a lot of people upset as well as a lot of people amused, which was great. Made a lot of noise, let's put it that way.
I have absolutely no idea what's going on.
One of Joel's Quiznos ads aired during the Super Bowl, the Great American Advert Fest, and Hand Egg Tournament. The screeching, grotesque Spong Monkeys were afforded their largest audience yet, who watched on perplexed by its lo-fi tenacity.
Fancy.
Some of my favourite mental stuff is actually coming out of America now, you know, and it's often in the animated sphere as well, you know. Like, I mean, obviously Rick and Morty is a huge deal, but like I'm currently slightly obsessed by Smiling Friends, one of the best shows I've ever seen. And that's got a very similar feel to some of our early work, right? In that it's got that kind of, you know, the aesthetic is deliberately rough, but it is completely insane. And actually think about it, they've pulled in I was watching one a couple of episodes in, and there's like a shrimp character. It's like, I know that voice.
Yes, I called. It is I, Shrimp. That is my name.
That's David Firth. And so I kind of went and checked. So yeah, they got David Firth to voice that. Yeah, there's stuff like that where, you know, they are kind of directly referencing, I guess, some of the people who were making the things that they were watching when they were a bit younger. So that's great. I think they're from the same cultural thing. So it's still there, yeah.
Joel himself held aspirations to animate for more than Flash cartoons. In an early interview with Beta, he picked Mr. Men as a favourite TV show, stating, "It's what I would make if I was making TV. I wish I'd made it." The sentiment, it seems, had never left him, leading to Netflix's Bad Dinosaurs, a slapstick, flatulent children's show.
Oh, I'm glad I was thinking about that in those times, yeah. Because when you're doing kids stuff, obviously you abandon some of the kind of more offensive stuff, but it doesn't mean you have to abandon the core of it, the creative core, the anarchy at the heart of it, right? That's because I think there's kids entertainment which is worthy, and there's kids entertainment which is written trying to have the same outlook on the world as a kid. And I'm definitely in the second camp personally, which I think Mr. Men is as well, right? Yeah, it's bonkers. It's lovely and simple and insane and vibrant and odd. And I think those are things which I really enjoy doing. And although we were just talking about how fun it is to do swearing, it doesn't mean that you always have to be doing swearing, right? There are other valid ways of having fun.
Bad Dinosaurs was a natural progression for Joel after the madcap years of soup hats and mango biscuits. Again, in my lifetime, culture has changed, shaped by the internet, led by content. What once seemed punk, fresh, and interesting is now lost ephemera, nostalgic and quaint. We couldn't foresee streaming TV, a vast pit of everything, ever, through 4 apps. YouTube was a few years away, and VHS tapes were still common fare. Flash, now, is literally dead, and unavailable without tools like Flashpoint, or browser plugins that try to emulate it. Enthusiasts kept classics online, of course, but so much didn't survive. Lost media in the internet age crumbled despite total connection.
I did now I'm old, did a panel at the BFI about how to archive what's important from the internet a while ago. And, it's a valid question, because all this stuff that seems throwaway at the time, you just fast forward 20 years and it's got some cultural relevance. It's a shame to just let all this stuff be burned. I've actually forgotten the name of it now, but there is a thing, in fact there's more than one, but there is a thing you can install on your website to bring a lot of Flash stuff back to life. I know on the beta site they've been going through, and one day I ought to try and go through and resurrect some of the old Flash content on Rather Good. Whether anybody would still watch it is another matter, but I should get it going just for the sake of it. But the thing is, I think that would work certainly for the linear animation. Whether it will work for things like the swearing keyboard, I'm not sure. But I ought to try.
In many ways, the young and creative of today have more opportunity to publish than Joel did in the early 2000s. Anybody can start a podcast and host it on the top platforms within hours of recording it. Bandcamp does its best to give musicians some control. YouTube, though getting worse, is an amazing resource for anything. But something stops the endless flow from feeling quite as liberated. Why exactly is that? And is it just nostalgia?
So in the old days, you made something and you put it out and people would see it and send it to their friends. And that's how people discovered things. And what it looked like in bigger media, like TV, was a show would get a commission and it would run and people would give it a chance and it would have time. Nowadays, if you as an individual creator are putting stuff out, that's not how it works anymore, because there's an algorithm in between you and the audience, and the algorithm wants what the algorithm wants, which is not to entertain your friends. The algorithm wants maximum time on platform, and that's not the same thing as you entertaining your friends. And that actually is an awful, terrible thing, and people spend a lot of time working to try and please the algorithm instead of what they enjoy, or if they're doing what they enjoy, which is what they should be doing, the algorithm punishes them for it, which is terrible. And in big grown-up media, there's also a crisis because streaming and the internet have wrecked viewing figures and advertising revenues, and so there isn't the money now to give anything a chance, and everybody is commissioning shows with minimum risk, which means it's all stuff that either has already proved its audience by existing for 10 years or has a massive toy brand behind it, or is the umpteenth Avengers movie. You know what I mean? So everything is working against what I think is the lifeblood of human culture right now, which is a shame. I think that is a bad thing. It does not mean it's impossible to do it though, but it does mean that it's different. And there are ways. I think the honest thing, which has always been true, is still true, which is if you want to make things and you're making stuff which you love and are passionate about and care about and makes you laugh if you're trying to be funny, or makes you cry if you're trying to do tragedy, or whatever it is you're doing, then as a general rule, as long as you stick with it, stuff that's good will rise to the top. I'm always slightly cautious because I know everybody, especially as you get older, everyone goes, oh, everything was better when I was young. Everybody's always done that forever. But I think actually it might be true with the internet. I mean, there are lots of things that are amazing now that you couldn't do before. But, not least, we're all on dial-up in the early 2000s. And there were huge amounts wrong with it. But that fundamental thing of it being a playground where you could just make stuff. You can still create things. It's just that everything has to be mitigated by a massive evil multinational corporate leviathan. Whenever you're mediated by a corporate, there's always a chance that will turn out to be something evil.
Hope isn't lost for the modern day youth, of course. It's just uniquely difficult, as all of us sit confused by the, honestly, new technology we have in our hands. A world divided, the rise of AI, and content consumed on tap from our pockets. We can make, like me making this, but will it be heard? Will it be seen? The point is to create anyway, if you want to, if you feel the impulse.
Passion sells. If you care about something, it's got a good chance. People can see that you care. So it's not like all doom and gloom in terms of just shoving stuff out. And you know, there are ways that people can find funding through Patreons and stuff. I mean, what we're concentrating on at the moment, we means me and my gang, my people around me. We're trying to work out what it is we can do, because it's really hard to do animation and not starve to death at the moment. And we're doing a lot of mucking about with game engines, is what that means for us now. For me now, is you know, I'm playing about with building some stuff in Unreal that we can use to do fun stuff with. Like, what does that mean for us if we start mucking about in Unreal Engine? So there'll be some stuff coming out from that soon. And in fact, there is a project called Gleeful Beast, which is entirely done in Game Engine, which is out there at the moment if you want to have a look. It's not on my YouTube channel, but yeah, Gleeful Beasts is the thing. That's my answer right now, is what is the thing that you can do, and do that and try and care about it. I mean, and you know, it's not just moving visuals, right? Like, it's very difficult to make a living writing words, but it's not impossible. It's difficult to make a living painting things, but it's not impossible. You know, it's difficult with music, but it's not impossible. Some things have got easier, like with music, you can find an audience at least, right? And then you can go and play live and try and make that, you know, that and merch, how you make it work. You know, there are ways.
Thank you to Joel for agreeing to this interview, and thank you for listening. I'd like to do more bits and pieces like this, so keep your eye on my channel for more. I hope you feel as inspired as me. Never stop creating.